Greetings, fellow skeptics, recovering Christians. It's me, the Reverend Atheist. I was a pastor for 14 years. I want to put together a series of videos from a former pastor's perspective to their congregation, to their family, expressing the hope and peace that's found not in the church, but from leaving the church. But before I go into that, I feel like an apology is needed. As I said, I was a pastor for 14 years, pastored in a variety of capacities in a variety of churches. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I wasn't more honest. I'm sorry that I glossed over passages that are inexcusable. I'm sorry that I gave pat answers when real, substantive, conclusive answers were available, just not within any form of orthodoxy. My goal here isn't deconversion. I've reached a stage in my atheism in which I don't want to convince anyone that I'm right. Merely, I want to express the hope that we would all live in accordance with reality. And I feel as though I was a part of a organization, being the Church Universal, that inspired people to live in such a way that was anything but that. Did it give hope? Sure. A kind of temporary, half-hearted hope. Did it give relief? Sure. I believe that people experienced relief as a result of studying the Bible, feeling as though the world was predictable and under the control of some kind of beneficent deity. But it's a half hope. It's a half relief in comparison to living in accordance with reality. I counseled people through the death of loved ones. I spoke to them in the midst of their crises of faith. And I gave the best answer that I knew at the time. Did I know there were issues? Sure. I don't think I knew that there were any more issues than the people who were already asking the questions. And so we were in some kind of self-perpetuating, toilet bowl circling mode of thought that kept the fantasy alive. I'm really sorry for that. Instead of saying, your loved one is dead, we know next to nothing about the afterlife. Instead of saying, yes, the Bible has horrible, immoral teachings that are destructive, both now and in the time that they were written. I glossed over it with platitudes. And I've watched over the last decade as a crisis of those platitudes has mounted up into the most reality-denying, apocalyptic sort of fervor that would inspire believers to wish the worst on this world instead of the best. And I believe they're being biblical. I believe they're reading the book correctly. And that's what terrifies me. Is the hermeneutic methods that are being used in order to inspire some of the most hate-filled rhetoric and actions and policies and politics and laws. They're consistent with the scriptures, because the Bible is a hate-filled book of rhetoric. While there was a time when I considered my faith to be integral to my identity, I've now reached a point where I view it as something that kept me from being the most honest, realistic, and good person that I could be. And I fear that as a part of being that kind of ministerial industry, that I kept others from a full life as well. I don't say this out of some overwhelming sense of shame or guilt. I believe we all do the best we can with what we have at any given moment. But a part of me being the best that I can be now is recognizing my part to play in a machine that ground people down in subjugation, to an outmoded way of thinking. I feel like I have to speak. I have to speak to my children. I have to speak to my former congregations. I have to speak to fellow skeptics. I have to speak to those who are leaving from under the thumb of that system. If you've never heard your pastor apologize for the pain and the suffering that they kept you in, either out of their own ignorance or perhaps knowingly, and I fear that there are a fair number of pastors who are still in the pulpit, know reality, but keep on preaching the quote-unquote truth. If you've never heard those people apologize to you, I hope you'll take some solace from a former pastor saying, "I'm sorry." Let's do better together. Leaving the faith might be a part of you doing better. It has been for me. Maybe you'll go on the rest of your life believing any number of things and justifying them any number of ways. Maybe you'll be a good person, despite the Bible, despite the God of the Bible. I think that's the hard way. I think the truth of the matter is the path to the best you might cause you to reconsider. So if you're willing to, you can join me on a path of opening the book and actually reading it and seeing what it really has to say, and seeing how the world that we are currently getting ourselves into is not in opposition to or in spite of these holy texts, but it's exactly where they were intended to lead us. Let's get better. I'm the Reverend Atheist. Come along for the ride.